I want to go to you, Sarah, first, in part because a lot of folks out there have actually sent in tweets this morning saying, what is it exactly about Joe Rogan's podcast that was misinformation? And rather than myself say it or state it, I thought you could actually just explain it and also the state of play inside of Spotify this weekend.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. So Joe Rogan in 2020 said that if you're a young person, you might not need to get vaccinated. Well, Spotify's policies say that that's okay. What you can't say is that the vaccine causes death. So his comments just skirted the policy. Now, the reason it's controversial, Andrew, is because we didn't know what the policies were. Spotify didn't put them out until yesterday. The other thing that Joe Rogan will sometimes do that sort of flirts with the line between good and misinformation is that he'll suggest cures that aren't exactly widely accepted. So he's talked about ivermectin, for example, which healthcare officials have widely condemned as a cure for coronavirus. He also just broadly talks to controversial figures. You know, he's had Alex Jones on his podcast. So even though Joe Rogan hasn't explicitly violated any Spotify rules, he's done things that have made some of the folks who really care about misinformation around COVID, specifically doctors, folks in the science community, a little bit uncomfortable.
Hey, Dan, let's talk about the impact on the company and potentially the future of it being a target for regulation. Is Spotify a broadcaster like an NBC Universal, which owns CNBC, of course, or is Spotify a platform insofar as it looks more like a Facebook or a Twitter, which now is putting, quote unquote, badges on different pieces of information around COVID, warning users or saying, click here to find out more? Because the responsibilities are very different.
No doubt. And Spotify never thought they'd be in the midst of this storm. Because on one side, you know, you have the audio piece and the streaming piece, which has been the core part of their success. But then look at podcasts, and they spend $500-600 million on exclusive podcasting. The worlds are colliding here for Spotify. They find themselves at the center of this. And that's why the Section 230 and some issues that we've seen with Facebook, Twitter don't necessarily apply here. But the Beltway, even though they've been focused traditionally on social media, video content, and others, now, I mean, this is really sort of above the radar. And I think Spotify, it doesn't end with just a one-page press release on a Sunday night that's going to end this storm. And for them, there's 100 million reasons to keep Joe Rogan. And that continues to be the issue here. You know, obviously the most listened to podcaster in the world. Spotify is trying to do a balancing act here, but right now they're in a lightning rod.
But Dan, does Joe Rogan, at the moment, it seems like Joe Rogan trumps all the other, you know, basically everything else. But if I told you that Taylor Swift and Adele and, I don't know, Drake decided they don't want to be on this platform, and some of, you know, those artists have some of the most downloaded music on that platform, does the dynamic change? Are we in a whole new world here?
Oh, I think there's a Pandora's box that's opened up, and how Spotify handles this in terms of the Neil Young and Joni Mitchell and the Rogan situation, it's a brush fire impact, especially when you start to think about catalog music versus non-catalog music. And Spotify, you know, they've made huge bets, not just on Rogan, the Obamas, you have Meghan and Harry and others. And I think this is one where this is a fork in the road situation for Spotify, how they handle this. It doesn't end here. And I think this is a story that's going to continue to go on. But from an investor perspective, it's a nightmare. In a risk-off situation, the last thing you want at Spotify to see the two worlds collide. And that's why you're seeing the stock continue to sell off here.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.